Episode 10. Man, how about that, Ian?
Yeah, we hit the decade mark.
The decade mark, man. It doesn't even seem like it's been that long, has it?
No, it hasn't. We're enjoying it, enjoying every single episode.
For sure, for sure. Well, we'll get into that when we get started. Well, Buzzbound, thanks for joining today for episode 10. Today we'll be going over the Panthers a little bit, talking about the Jonathan Mingo trade. We'll also be going into the Giants game coming up this weekend in Munich, Germany. Then we'll be getting to a little bit of Hornets talk, talking about that tremendous loss against the Timberwolves on yesterday, actually. Then we'll discuss a little bit of the Carolina College hoops, and then actually going back to Hornets news. Today, we found out Nick Richards is injured. So, Ian, you ready to get this thing going, man? Got a lot to cover.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Touchdown, Carolina! You're listening to the Buzz Pound.
Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
A Queen City sports podcast covering your Charlotte Hornets and Carolina Panthers.
Halliburton, nowhere to go! LaMelo's done it! LaMelo's done it! Hornets win! Here comes LaMelo.
Here are your hosts, Ian Blair and Cam Gardner.
Buzzpound, thank you again for joining today. We're here for episode 10. Like Ian said, we're at the decade mark. It doesn't even feel like it's been that long since we started, but we want to say a special thanks to those who have supported us since episode one. Continue, being patient with us and supporting us as we are brand new to this, but we feel that we're getting pretty adjusted, don't you think, Ian?
Yeah, we can't technically use the brand new term anymore, especially 10 episodes in. Obviously, growing and improving each and every week. Obviously, we enjoy doing this. We enjoy talking our favorite teams, obviously, and we're enjoying every second of it.
No doubt. We are definitely planning to do some other things in the future. We won't mention any of those yet, but we are definitely having some plans between the both of us. So in due time, we will announce those and hope you guys just keep supporting. Well, Ian, you ready to get into some Panther news?
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously today the
Let's go.
Panthers traded Jonathan Mingo to Dallas for a fourth round pick, and I believe we gave him a seventh round pick in that trade. And for once, the Hornets win a trade. Obviously, Jonathan Mingo not really performing, not really giving us any production in the receiver room. If you really look at the his PFF grade and his stats, I believe he had the on per route run, he had the lowest yardage of just about any receiver for the past couple years. Obviously, drafted him in the second round a couple years ago. And yes, we won the trade. We get a fourth round pick for him, but it's disappointing because at the same time we drafted him in the second round. And it's, kind of disappointing that we gave up a second round, selection to, at the time we thought he was going to be a franchise type receiver, a cornerstone of this team, but we were able to flip him to Dallas. And I think we won the trade. Cam, what do you think on the trade? Obviously, we got a fourth round pick for him. DeAndre Hopkins, a lot of stuff on social media about, obviously Deontay Johnson. He was a productive receiver. We didn't even get as much as we got for Jonathan Mingo. Really, I don't know what Dallas is doing giving up a fourth round pick for a receiver, unless, obviously Jonathan Mingo proves us wrong and starts to play well. But early on, kind of a head scratcher from Dallas and Jerry Jones over there and Jerry's world just making these crazy moves. But what do you think about the trade, Cam?
Like I told you earlier when the trade first happened, for once in a long time, the Cowboys did the fleecing instead of us getting fleeced. I mean, it feels good that we're not in that seat anymore. Because typically we're the ones who are in the bad side of the trade.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's not a fantastic trade. I think we don't, like you said, we only got a fourth rounder out of it in 2025. But we're not on the bad side of it. So I will take that as a Panthers fan. It's kind of
Yeah.
a,
Yeah.
it makes you feel kind of good. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, Jonathan Mingo, like you said, he didn't stand out for us. I mean, this whole season so far, I think he only had about 12 receptions, 26 targets, 121 yards, and no touchdowns. So he wasn't benefiting us at all. Now, if it was someone like Leggett or Coker, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But they've been actually providing for us. And obviously, we already lost Johnson. Best of luck to him again. But I'm not opposed of us getting rid of him. Like you said earlier when we were texting, I wasn't super upset by it. But maybe he'll have a better tenure over there. But I mean, they are without Dak for a while, so I don't know how well he's going to perform over there. But obviously, it just shows we have main focus on Coker and Leggett for the future, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Two good options. Two
Yeah,
good options, I
honestly,
think.
yeah, definitely two young guys that I feel like have all the potential in the world to grow.
Yeah.
They would be a weapon anywhere. Hopefully, they stay with us where we can have them to at least build with, whoever, whatever our quarterback situation may be come postseason. But and that'll be another topic
Yeah.
later on. But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I am with it. Hopefully with that pick, fourth round isn't much, but maybe we'll be
Yeah.
able to do something with it when that time comes.
Yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of teams that are in the NFL. If you watch the film on Jonathan Mingo, obviously I played receiver when I did play football. He doesn't create separation. He doesn't run good routes. Really coming out of Ole Miss, his thing was blocking. He's a great blocker. But as I mentioned, he doesn't run good routes and doesn't create separation at the NFL level. If you don't create separation and run good routes, it's really hard to succeed. Obviously, the Panthers kind of try to, do some things with him, some jet sweeps and things in the backfield, getting him the ball, and kind of shows that he doesn't run good routes or create separation. And when he got the ball, I mean, there's times I remember him fumbling, and he had that fumble earlier on this year, I believe. In the past couple games, he hasn't really played much. I think he maybe had like one or two receptions for like a yard I saw. But obviously, when he came out of Ole Miss, they were kind of expecting him to develop a little bit, kind of raw, very good blocker. I think he's going to still be a good blocker, but at the NFL level, how much does that matter? You got to be at a receiver position. Yes, you have to block, but you have to get open. And I don't think early on in his career, unless he continues to, maybe progress and develop, I don't think, early on it's kind of shown he's not going to be a successful NFL receiver. Obviously, moving on, we play the New York Giants this Sunday in Germany at 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. And I think it's another game where the Panthers could potentially win. Maybe we can go back to back. Obviously, the Giants aren't very good this year. They have some key pieces, obviously. The quarterback is not very good, but they do have a really good receiver, a really good young receiver, and Malik Neighbors. He's a great young receiver, obviously been playing really well this year and was hurt a couple weeks, but has really put on a show early on in his career coming out of LSU, his top 5 pick, I believe. And Cam, what are your kind of expectations going in the Giants game? What are you kind of looking for? And do you think we come out with the win?
Well, like you said, I feel like this game is a toss-up. It's either or. Both of these teams are 2-7, so they're basically in the same boat. Two quarterbacks that aren't the most talented in the world. I know Jones has been in the league for a little longer. Bryce is still quote unquote developing, if you will. But I mean, if he has a game like he did this past weekend against the Saints, I mean, it's potential. We could come out with the win. I hope we do. It would be great to have at least one more from
Yeah.
last year in 3 games instead of 2, because we've already tied the amount of wins we had last year. So I would love that to go back-to-back weeks. That would make my heart happy as a Panthers fan. I know it would for you too and the rest of them out there. But I think it's just a matter of, also who Canales will start. He hasn't, today they asked him, he hasn't made his decision. Personally, I think it'll be better for them to just let Young play.
Yeah.
Again.
I don't even know why this is a question, honestly. Obviously Bryce Young getting the win. He didn't play, he didn't really stand out. Obviously had that late drive down the field to win the game in the fourth quarter against the Saints, and our defense came up clutch. But I don't think it's Bryce didn't play horrendous like he did in the first 2 weeks of the year. We ended up ultimately getting the win. And I don't know even why this is a question. It's not a question in my head, honestly, whether we should start Bryce Young or Andy Dalton. Bryce Young won the game. He didn't win the game, but the Panthers won last week. And I don't know why this is a question. We're wanting Bryce Young was supposed to be supposedly our franchise quarterback. We drafted him with the first overall pick and hasn't played particularly well early on in his career, but we won. and he didn't look terrible. And he had some good throws. Obviously, the throw to Xavier Legette that unfortunately was, ripped out of him by the DB, ripped out of his hands. And that's just one of those great plays by the defensive back. Obviously, those guys are paid professionals too. So, everybody's good at this level. And the DB just made a great play on the ball, and it's really nothing you can take from it. But the throw on that play was great. I mean, Bryce placed it exactly where it was supposed to be. Legette caught it up until he got it taken from him. But yeah, I don't know why this is a question on who should start next week. I think it obviously should be Bryce Young until he loses it.
Personally, just at where we are, I think it'll be better for him to start the rest of the season. I think that's just very important, especially for the organization, to see what they're working with and to see if he's worth keeping around. Because obviously they didn't trade him at the trade deadline today. Some people thought that might happen. Clearly
Yeah,
it didn't.
thank goodness we didn't, because we would have got a fifth or sixth round pick for him, and
Yeah.
that's just being real. We wouldn't have got much for him at the trade deadline, and I'm thankful that we kept him around. Obviously trying to cut our losses a little bit. I don't. It's still up in the air if Bryce is going to win. This roster, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, this roster is not very good. And it's just bad. When you watch it, all these offseason moves, you see we make them and everything. Until you actually watch the games week in and week out, you can't really tell how good the roster is. And this roster obviously is not very good. Like I said, we have a ton of undrafted players playing. Jalen Coker is an undrafted player, and I will say he is a hidden gem. Jalen Coker obviously had a Holy Cross, undrafted free agent, and I think he's going to kind of, Adam Thielen was undrafted as well and made a career in the NFL, obviously played really well for the Vikings early on in his career. But I think, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, these undrafted guys are not going to last very long. You always have, those one guys like Jalen Coker, Adam Thielen, those guys that, really are diamonds in the rough, so to say. But, a lot of our defense, the guys that are playing are not high draft picks and not draft picks at all. And, it's kind of showing out on the field. Obviously, we got lucky with Jalen Coker, extremely lucky with Jalen Coker. I think he's the plays he's made, some of the catches he's made, he's creating separation. He's making contested catches when he is when it is contested, and kind of really nice to see out of a guy that didn't play high level college football. Obviously, playing at Holy Cross, didn't really face off against the DBs you see at Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and really making plays out there. If you watch him play, looks really good, and I'm really, really excited to see him moving forward. But yeah, obviously the Giants game might be it'd be nice to win 3 games this year. Giants game is one of the remaining games on the schedule that are even winnable, in my opinion. So, we could finish, if we beat the Giants, we could finish with 3 wins. But it would be nice to win one more game for the rest of the year and kind of move forward into next year and into the offseason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at the schedule right now, after the Giants got a bye week, got the Chiefs, automatic loss.
Mm-hmm.
No shot. Got the Bucks, Eagles, Cowboys, depending on the situation. It could be winnable. If they're still without Dak, it's possible, in my opinion. Just the way they've been playing. You saw what the Falcons did to them the other day. And I will say this, and I apologize to all Cowboy fans, JC, New York, if you're listening. Again, we had no reason to talk about your boys, but
unless they give us a 4th round pick for one of our worst receivers, then we'll talk.
There you go. But if the Panthers actually do beat the Cowboys, McCarthy's gone.
Yeah. I think it's funny. We might be on an unemployment tour here soon. I think if we beat the Giants, Dayball could be fired. And the Panthers really have this opportunity, obviously as Panthers fans, we gotta get excitement wherever we can, but we might be on this, unemployment tour here soon in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those situations. We were the reason the Saints fired their coach. So, I mean, like you said, we are on unemployment tour. Bryce Young, he's making a name for himself there. At least he's making a name for himself somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. If the Cowboys, if they drop another game in between our game and maybe another, and they somehow lose to us, especially with Jerry Jones, I think, like you said, McCarthy's probably out of there. McCarthy's close to being out of there anyway, in my opinion. But obviously, moving on to some Hornets news this week. Yesterday, we had a horrible loss against the Timberwolves, and really, I texted you, I think, halfway through the 4th quarter. And it was just disappointing. We didn't perform well at all. What was the final score? Do you have the final score of the game?
The final score is 114-93.
Yeah. And I think we played worse. I think the score really doesn't. I think, we played really not good at all. And the stat sheet wasn't, Trey Mann only had 10 points, I believe. And, Brandon Miller didn't really have a standout game. And those are our guys, some of the guys that played well up to this point in the year, especially Trey Mann. You kind of want to see him, perform a little bit better and score some more points so we can get in a better spot for our team. But really, I mean, I watched probably about a quarter of the game, and it was just, we didn't look good. It looked very reminiscent of last year's Hornets, and it was just disappointing to see. And hopefully, we don't stack too many losses like that where we don't look good and we don't perform well. And this team really, I think, really has to just learn how to win. Obviously, we didn't win much last year. LaMelo hasn't won much in his career. Albeit LaMelo's a great player, but he just hasn't really won a ton of games. He's usually just been a stat sheet stuffer and scored a lot of points, looked really good. The team still loses. And it's one of those things you hope, Charles Lee, and obviously his first year, his first couple games as a head coach. And I believe he's going to get the team right, but it's really just moving forward to a winning team and a winning mentality. And, I'll take games where LaMelo, only scores 15 points if we get a win. And I'll take games, where Brandon Miller only scores 10 points if we get a win. It's kind of one of those things that I don't care too much about LaMelo scoring 40 every night as I care about the team winning and having success.
No, I completely agree. LaMelo Ball, I mean, there wasn't even a real standout in the game. I mean, LaMelo only had like 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. That was like the only real standout player, if you will, to talk about. There's definitely a lack of not having Nick Richards or Mark Williams. And unfortunately, it looks like we'll be without them for even lengthy amount of time. They announced that Nick Richards was out even longer now with a rib fracture. So let's hope he heals and gets back out there and doesn't miss a beat. But not having those two guys, that's really going to be a lot of pain for us. I mean, those are two key pieces there. I mean, two centers. I mean, they're the ones that grab the rebounds and can get it to the rim when you need it. So without that, I mean, I think Taj Gibson started yesterday. That's a veteran we're talking about. He's not even what he used to be at this point. I mean, he's just kind of that role for the young guys on the team right now. One thing I will say, LaMelo does need to focus on not attempting so many 3-point shots. I mean, he was 6 of 15
Mm-hmm.
on the night. We don't need that. I mean, we know he can shoot, but it's just so many that you can already look at and tell is a bad read. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not even worth chucking up. I mean, sometimes he can make them. Sometimes he can make where he's covered defensively. Sometimes he can make them when he is, off balance. But he doesn't need to focus on that. He can clearly get to the rim with no problem.
Yeah.
His mid-range game is there. So I really don't feel like he needs to focus on that so much. And man, I'm gonna say it again. Boy, oh boy, do we need Miles Bridges to step up. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
coaching adjustments or what, but we've seen him play better. Even last season, he was playing better majority of the time he did when he came back from his, situation. But I mean, he's part of our future. I mean, they extended him. And, a lot of people are saying right now that extension is not looking very good for him. I'm not going to go that far, but he definitely needs to play up to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I mean, right now we're kind of comparable to a AAU team where, we got guys scoring, 40 points. Obviously, nobody played well last game, but, early on, even against Boston, we get guys scoring 40 points, stat sheet stuffers, and we're not winning. So it's one of those things that we got to play it as a team. This team has to really rally around one another and really, start stacking wins. At the end of the day in the NBA, it's nice to score 40 a game and be in the running for all these awards, but it's about wins and making to the playoffs. And that's really when you can, stars show. Obviously, Luka Doncic is a great example, but those guys play as a team. And yeah, I mean, it's just right now we're looking like last year's Hornets. And while we have players playing great like LaMelo, it's just we're not winning. And I'd take a win over a LaMelo 40 piece any night. But yeah,
And now we're sitting at 2-5, 12th in the East. I mean, yeah, it's still early, but we're going to get to the point where if we keep doing this, the season will get away from us. Games when you get to about mid-season or so, those count more than anything. I mean, not having Nick Richards or Mark Williams for an extended period of time, both is really going to affect us tremendously. That is eating me, honestly, but those are two important pieces. While we didn't have Mark, we had Nick Richards, not the same by any means, but he can get it done as a role player.
Yeah.
So um, until one of those guys come back, I feel like we're going to see a bit of similar games last night. Now, one thing I will say that I noticed, there was one point in the game where Melo Ball and Brandon Miller both were on the bench. We do not need that. One of them got to be on the court,
Yeah.
especially as our star duo, two-star players of our team. We can't have that. Like, they're gonna have to make an adjustment to at least have one of them leading, because both of them, again, are the two stars. And Bridges, the way he's playing right now, he's not carrying. We need at least one of them on the court at all times. And even if they aren't, they can't be off the court for an extended amount of time. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's just
yeah,
we got to turn this around, and obviously it's still really early in the year. We've 2-5 sitting at, and it's early. We can, like I said, like I mentioned, I'll probably say it again, but we can stack wins and go on a run. But it's just one of those things that we need to start looking competitive and making the right decisions, not turn the ball over, things like, fundamental elementary school basketball, and we're not taking care of the basketball and we're giving the team other, extra possessions and things like that. But anyway, moving on to college hoops. Cam, do you want to kind of talk about that?
yeah, time to move into Carolina college hoops. So yesterday, the college basketball season officially started. Shout out to my alma mater, Sanford's men basketball, for beating Mississippi College yesterday. I was at that game. That was a very fun game to watch. Sure, you were working the UAB game. I'm sure
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got a
Represent
shout out to them.
Birmingham very well, both of us.
There you go. Well, let's start off with UNC. They beat Elon yesterday, November 4th, 90 to 76. Up next, they play Kansas on Friday, November 8th at Kansas at 7 p.m., 8 Central. Like you said last time, Battle of the Blue Bloods, that should be a pretty good team, especially with Kansas. They were ranked first before the season started, so that should be a exciting game there. Duke, they beat Maine yesterday, November 4th, 96 to 62. That was actually a pretty fun game to watch. Up next, they play Army West Point on Friday as well, November 8th at Duke at 6 p.m., 5 Central. And last but not least, NC State, they beat USC Upstate yesterday as well, 97 to 66. And up next, they play Presbyterian Friday as well at 7 p.m., 6 Central. So got some exciting games. College basketball, it's nothing like it, especially during that March Madness time of the year. It's one of my favorite times of the year personally, seeing
Yeah.
good basketball, because you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
So
No, for
let's
sure. I
hope.
always loved the NCAA tournament. I mean, obviously, if you're a sports fan of any type, even if you're not, don't really enjoy basketball as much, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, it's just a different, it's entertaining all around because anybody could beat anybody. But yeah, obviously, as you mentioned, all three North Carolina schools getting the dub. I saw, Cooper Flag. I know you're not a Duke guy, but
Hey,
obviously, Cooper Flag looking really good early on in his Duke career with the poster, but obviously Duke has some really good recruits. Do you want to kind
Hey,
of
I may
speak
not
to?
be a Duke fan, but I know talent when I see it, and he is special and will be special.
Yeah, no, I agree. Probably potential number one pick in this upcoming draft, and really looks really bouncy out there, man. I mean, he can get up there and really, if he could just develop, he's kind of really talented. Shows all the pieces, and if he could just continue to develop his shot and everything, he's going to be really talented for a long time. But
Yeah.
obviously, do you want to look towards? You mentioned the North Carolina Kansas game. That's going to be a huge one on Friday night. I'll probably try to tune in. I'm not a big. Forgive me for saying this, but I'm not a big North Carolina basketball person for any team. But I will tune in. I do respect talent when I see it, and I will probably be tuning in to the Kansas North Carolina game just because it's good basketball early on in the year. Get some good college hoops, and as a sports fan, you really enjoy watching good teams play one another. And Cam, what are your expectations for your Tar Heels?
It's definitely going to be a tough game, as long as RJ Davis comes out doing like he did yesterday, the guard. I think he can show out a little bit. Kansas, they made a pretty good run in March Madness, but I think it'll be tight. Can't really call a winner yet, honestly. It's still early in the season.
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to seeing two well-known programs playing against each other, some good basketball. I mean, I may be, and this is to all sports, but I may have my teams that I root for, but I love just seeing good sports in general, good talent, good players, and, just seeing the next potential stars of the league. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially with me and you working in sports, you really can't have too strong of a loyalty to one team. You
yeah,
kind of, because you never know, working in sports, you never know where you're going to end up. But you just enjoy sports. You enjoy watching good teams play one another, no matter who it is. And I'm the same way, for sure. Because you never know, you might be working for one of those teams one day. But
yeah. Well,
anyway,
nine times out of 10, probably won't be working for your favorite team.
yeah,
That's one thing
yeah,
I've
for
learned.
sure,
So
for sure. You just gotta love sports. That's one of those things. You love good college hoops, good NBA hoops, obviously college football and NFL. You just love good ball. You enjoy watching it. Obviously, it's we're Panthers fans, and it's not good ball every week, but so we kind of struggle to watch those games, but always diehard Panthers fan and diehard Carolina sports fan, especially the Hornets and Panthers.
there you go.
Well, Buzzpound, we appreciate y'all joining us for episode 10 now. We really appreciate every single one of y'all tuning in, at least checking in to see what we're talking about. Me and Cam love doing this, and we really enjoy, this as a hobby. As always, you can follow us on both of our social media accounts, Instagram and X at Buzzpound Pod, and you can listen to our podcast on both YouTube and Spotify at Buzzpound Podcast.
And until next time, we are the Buzz Pound. Keep pounding and keep the hive mentality.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Buzz Pound. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Until next time, this is the Buzz Pound.
Touchdown!